Welcome to the Sound of Ideas from IdeaStream Public Media. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for being with us. With Thanksgiving just days away, you may be in the midst of gathering ingredients to pull together that perfect holiday feast. But what happens when the people around your table can't eat the traditional dishes you usually make? Each year, our team puts together a Sound of Ideas Friendsgiving show where we invite chefs from the region to share food, tips, and some Thanksgiving memories with us. This year, we're focusing on dishes that can be enjoyed by everyone, including vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, and nut-free options. We've asked 4 Northeast Ohio chefs to share their inclusive dishes they've created and offer Thanksgiving cooking wisdom for our home cooks. They'll also reflect on their personal journeys with plant-based living and tell us how they're navigating a changing restaurant landscape. So joining us in studio today, we have Adam Schwederman. He's Executive Director of Local Roots Market and Cafe. Adam, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
We also have Portia Phillips, Executive Chef of the Vegan Club. Portia, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And we have Tila Lewis, owner of Garden of Soul. Tila, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
As well as Caitlin Shea, owner of Philomena Bake Shop. Caitlin, thanks for coming into the Sound of Ideas.
So happy to be here.
Now, one of the things that we love about this annual show is hearing your favorite Thanksgiving dishes and holiday traditions. So you can call in with your questions for our panel here or your comments at 866-578-0903. Again, that number is 866-578-0903. You can also email us at soi@ideastream.org, or you can send us a message on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. Now, I'm going to ask a question to the panel here before we bring in our meal, and to let everyone know this is a progressive meal that we're having today. So we're going to start with dishes and make our way through the entree and then eventually to dessert throughout the course of today. But I will just start first here with Portia. Portia, how do you celebrate Thanksgiving?
With lots of delicious food. I mean, is there any other way?
Yeah, and Adam, what does that look like for you typically?
Family. Yep. A big group of people all in the same room together, sort of chaos, and food scattered all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tila, how about for you?
Pretty much the same. A house full of family from all generations, all the recipes, all the love, the warmth. That's all about family.
And Caitlin, how about for you?
I actually keep it really quiet because I work like crazy the day before, so it'll just be my husband and I having tacos this year.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get to the food without further ado. Our producers, Drew and Aya, will be bringing in the items as we get started today. So if we can bring in the first dish. This comes from Portia, again, the executive chef with the Vegan Club. So, Portia, tell us about the dish that you brought in for us today.
Okay. So in my family, greens are a definite staple, and there can be many battles fought over the right recipe for greens. So I really needed to recreate this being vegan. So it features smoked jackfruit. There's apple cider vinegar in there, a little bit of spice from jalapenos and hot sauce, and collard greens and turnip mustard greens as well.
Okay, so and that was inspired by trying to get it to be the right fit that can be available for people?
Yeah, exactly. Because maybe about 7 years ago is when I actually went vegan. So I needed to figure out a way to recreate my favorite dishes. I mean, I didn't want to be left out on Thanksgiving, so I had to figure it out.
Very tasty. Very. Is briny the right word to describe
savory,
it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So yes, I will be snacking, and you will all be hearing my ridiculous attempts of trying to describe what it is that I'm snacking on throughout the day. And as we snack on these, we'll continue to have other conversations as well. And again, in a couple minutes, we'll bring out another dish. But that was Portia's braised greens with smoked jackfruit. Why the jackfruit? Why do you choose the jackfruit, Portia?
Because traditionally in greens, you would normally have something like smoked turkey neck or smoked ham hock or usually some sort of pork. So I needed that smoky flavor and also the texture of feeling like you had meat in it. So I wanted to try to hit all of the points, the flavor, the texture, the smells, like everything. So.
Okay. And so now we'll just talk about a few general questions in between so we can let our palates rest a minute before we bring out the next dish. Adam, I'll ask you, are there any trends that you're noticing in Northeast Ohio when it comes to plant-based dining?
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about when I was coming into this is how even for people that are still, not eating an entirely plant-based diet, how much healthier the general options are on the table. And I feel like when I was growing up, it was just, very meat and starch heavy. It's like mashed potatoes, gravy, turkey, ham, and when you walk out of that meal, you're kind of like that old joke of like, I need a nap after I ate. And, I still do that. We still do that as a family. But just to such a lesser degree, there's so many more healthy options on the table when I sit down where it's like maybe there's something that's heavy that's on the plate, but you can still walk away from the meal and feel good afterward. And I think that's happening regionally.
Okay. And when we talk about pairing things, Tila, generally, in your opinion, what are the best drinks, either alcoholic or non-alcoholic, to pair with Thanksgiving dinner?
Ooh, anything with like a cider, apple cider. I'm an apple juice girl. I love apple juice. And you can really pair that with maybe a dark liquor. Or if you don't drink, just an apple cider is really good to go with that. The spices from the cinnamon, so I think that would pair really good with a Thanksgiving dinner.
Is something like that that's a little bit sweet, would that pair well with something like this savory dish, for example, like the braised greens and smoked jackfruit?
Absolutely. The sweetness can't always balance out the savory, so absolutely.
Okay. Now, Caitlin, your operation, Philomena Bake Shop, it is gluten-free. So can you tell us what goes into operating a gluten-free kitchen?
We're actually gluten-free and vegan. So we don't let any wheat or gluten products into our facility at all. So we confidently serve celiacs and everybody else in between. We are also very careful with all other allergens to try to prevent cross-contamination. So many of our customers come in, and you won't believe it. If people can ingest it, somebody's allergic to it, and they've come through my door. So we're very careful with all of that. You'd be surprised at what people can be allergic to or can't tolerate. So we're just very careful with all of our ingredients and storage and cleanliness, and making sure we can serve as many people as possible in a reasonable amount of time.
Sure. We have an email now in from Lucy from Seven Hills. Lucy has been an ethical vegan since 2008. Lucy says, I'll be enjoying all the delicious dairy and egg-free sides. Lucy goes on to say, Thanksgiving isn't the time to try to convert non-vegans or for vegans to avoid family gatherings. For some, it may be the only chance to see one another. Be there, plant a seed, shut up, and may all your vegetarian side dishes meld into an umami bliss. That is advice from Lucy. I'll ask anyone here in the panel, do you have an experience to share or any advice for people who may be ethical non-meat eaters that might be sitting down at a Thanksgiving table today? Tila, go ahead.
I would say as long as you have good food, the thing is a lot of people like to put vegans in a box. And I feel like, I'm pretty sure you all feel the same, but like for me, my business was about being inclusive. We want to be invited to the cookout as well, right? We don't want to be left out. So I feel like making good savory dishes and, like Portia said, just using ingredients, replacing from what you're used to using instead of using dairy products. Find you a non-dairy product that works for your recipe, and I think you'll be fine. I think people put a lot more into being vegan than it has to be. So I would say just overall, just make you a good recipe, stick to the basics, and just don't try to overdo it.
I will say, just personally, I have to have, I'm not vegan or vegetarian, I am pescatarian, so this doesn't fall into the vegan category, but I personally have to have deviled eggs at the holiday. So I make the deviled eggs, I know what's in them, so I subscribe to, if you want it done, maybe sometimes it's the best thing to do yourself, so that might be the approach to take at Thanksgiving. If you really have your heart set on a certain dish, maybe bring that dish so that you know it's there for you and you can enjoy that and enjoy the people that you're around. We'll take a call now from Renee in Lyndhurst. Renee, welcome to the Sound of Ideas. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hi, Renee. Welcome to the Sound of Ideas. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. I wanted to ask a question. I started a couple years ago making brioche à tête. That's the one that goes in a fluted tin with a little top knot on it. And I'm having trouble because, some of them will keep their shape, but some, after the second rise, the top knot just sort of melts into it. So I wanted to know if your baker has any tips for how, I can stop that from happening.
Oh, gosh. Are you using wheat? I'm a gluten-free baker, so it's been over a decade since I've used wheat.
Oh, yeah. It has wheat in it. It's a regular brioche dough.
Oh, well, unfortunately, I sort of lost my knowledge on how to handle gluten.
Does any of the other chefs know what to do with it?
Anyone have advice for a brioche top knot that is having an issue on the second rise?
I do not know.
I don't.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be the one to help you either.
I wish I could eat that, though. It sounds great.
Right.
It really does. Thank you so much for calling in, Renee. Sorry we couldn't help you on this particular question. We do have another call from Rita in East Sparta. Rita, welcome to the Sound of Ideas. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. Mine is a little bit different. A long time ago in the 60s, when I was younger and did more active things, my sister started Thanksgiving with having not a Thanksgiving meal. Everyone was invited, but she had soup and rolls. And so what we still do, she didn't do it for a long time, went back to the regular big, large meal. But now I suggested, why don't we go back? So everyone is invited, but a lot of people may go the other way. But we have two soups. She makes one, her daughter makes one, a big pot of soup. And then we have some nice rolls. That's what we do. And people are encouraged to donate to maybe a food place or a place that supplies or any type of thing that would help people out. And now you can do this for other meals too, and because this is kind of close to Thanksgiving to even suggest, but it's just a suggestion, and it makes us feel good.
Thank you very much for sharing that perspective with us, Rita. We really appreciate it. So that's one take on a Thanksgiving approach to celebrating is something simple. Everyone can come with a soup and some rolls. All right, let's try our next dish. We'll ask Aya and Drew to please bring out Adam's dish, which we know is a baked kale and quinoa salad, also some vegan stuffing. So Adam, as they're bringing it out for us to try, can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So the stuffing is very akin to a traditional stuffing. So bread, leave it set out, and get about a day old, kind of a feeling to it. You could make your own veggie broth as the base for the moisture, or buy one out of a jar or a can, and saute celery and onions is kind of the base. Mix in some sage into there, pour that over, and then you're baking that. 350 in the oven. I think the key with the stuffing, what's always important with stuffing, is that when you add the moisture on top of it, the liquid, you really just don't want it to be soggy. So firm, but not like dripping either, somewhere in between those two things. And then try to get that brown on the top in the oven at the very end. So this has lentils in it as well. So that's kind of like a little bit of a more protein-packed, nutrient-dense filler. And what I love about lentils is that you can't really screw them up. Just make sure there's enough liquid in there. Pour it off at the end and then mix that all in before you bake it. The kale, cabbage, quinoa salad, roasted cabbage and kale to get it started. Cook your quinoa on the side. There's some pickled red onions in here as well. That kind of adds a little brightness and some crunch to it. And then with the quinoa, what we do at the very end of this is bake it so you get that kind of roasted flavor after it's cooked. It gets a little bit of a char, a little bit of a crisp. A larger portion of quinoa, so half of that goes in the salad before it's been roasted, but then the other half gets roasted and that gets sprinkled on top, and that's kind of like a crunchy topping to it.
I will say the lentils gives this stuffing really kind of like that hearty element to it for me personally. I've also noticed too, just trying the quinoa salad, it's a little bit on the sweeter side. So we had something for me anyway. Are you feeling? Is it supposed to be on the sweeter side, or am I just totally out of it?
No, honey and the vinaigrette.
Okay.
Yep.
I was going to say I was tasting that. So in contrast to the more savory green dish that we started things off with, we've got now the baked kale and quinoa salad from Adam. Very tasty, delicious on this stuffing. So Adam, that was a lot of ingredients, maybe a lot for people to grapple with. If you want to start with maybe something that might be a little simpler for a vegan stuffing, do you have any advice for people at home who might be doing this for the first time?
I mean, I think if you didn't want to put the lentils in there, you could. But, I mean, for me, this is almost as simple as it kind of gets. It's, I think, 5 ingredients on the plate. Mm-hmm. And, and I would take it in the other direction. I would make it more complicated, but just have fun with it is the other thing. If you want to put broccoli in there, put broccoli. You know, if you wanted to do mushrooms, you could get really fancy and do some kind of gourmet lion's mane mushroom or something along those lines. Sweet corn would be delicious in this, and any mixture of those types of things you could all add together. But if you really just wanted to go bread, seasonings, you know, celery, and my recommendation, local food guide here, if you can find local celery, like farm fresh local celery and not the store-bought stuff. Like I remember growing up and I first learned how to cook and the whole like French Trinity mirepoix thing. And I remember going to the grocery store and buying celery and being like, I don't know why people eat this. Like, how did the French, like the masters of cooking, base all of their cooking on store-bought celery? And then I realized that's not really what, you know, good celery tastes like. It's my one pro tip from the local foodie here. Go find a farmer that's growing celery and use that in your Thanksgiving cooking because the flavor profile is just awesome. It's so different.
Okay, great tip there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Adam. We have an email now from Megan. Megan says, thank you so much for including vegan chefs and dishes this morning. Megan says, Megan, I don't know. Yeah, words are hard sometimes, everybody. When the food is that good, that's all I'm thinking about. Megan says, my husband and I have been vegan for about 15 years, and we always host so we can veganize all our favorite dishes. I can't have Thanksgiving without mashed potatoes with mushroom gravy. So that kind of goes in response to what you were saying, Adam, about potentially adding mushrooms in. Is that something, I'll ask the panel here. I'll start with you, Portia. Do you use mushrooms a lot in your cooking?
Oh, yes. At the Vegan Club, we love mushrooms. It's a large part of our menu. We use oyster mushrooms that we fry, and that's like our chicken replacement. We have tons of sandwiches that feature it, but mushrooms are like, for me, I feel like my favorite ingredient to kind of play off of because they have so many different flavors. You have some that taste more like seafood and that have lighter flavor, and you have ones that are more savory, and you can kind of take it in the beef direction. So mushrooms are very fun for me to play with and really figure out different cooking techniques that bring out different flavor profiles. So mushrooms, whenever people tell me they don't like mushrooms, I'm like, it's a challenge for me. I'm like, yeah, I'll make you a mushroom lover because they're just amazing. I mean, to a vegan, I feel like they're just, that's the holy grail, is mushrooms.
Portia, we would either get along really well because you would love to try to make things that I might enjoy, or you would say out the door, Stephanie, because I am one of those people who's like, I don't know if I'm into mushrooms.
Well, I will say, everyone says that, and then I have them try it, and then they change their minds. They're like, okay, I can eat those mushrooms. So that's good enough for me. I'm okay with that.
I'm intrigued.
Okay.
I'm intrigued. Adam, I'll ask you, can you just give us sort of a range of the variety of dishes maybe that I'm missing out on because I believe that I don't like mushrooms?
Specific with mushrooms, I think anything that you can do where you use that as the filler. So I've seen people do it where they do like a, you know, like a crab cake kind of a filling, and I really like that. But any kind of sautéed mushroom that replaces that kind of meatier variety, if you're somebody that went away from meat and you're looking for something to add as that like filler or replacement, mushrooms are the perfect complement to that. So lightly roasted, don't cook them too much. A lot of people love to just, you know, cook mushrooms to death, and I don't think you really need to do that. You're just trying to get the texture on it a little bit and add it as a topping or a filling to anything.
Okay.
Super good.
Tila, do you have thoughts on mushrooms?
I love mushrooms. The crazy part is, before I became vegan, you could not get me to eat a mushroom to save my life, literally. But now, like Portia said, like it's such a main item in our menu. Like I've changed a lot of people's minds with our mushrooms that we have. To the lion's mane mushroom, people are like, what is a lion's mane mushroom? It looks kind of weird and fuzzy a little bit. So seeing it in its raw form, people are like, oh yeah, no, I don't want that. But once it's cooked and it has all the flavor, you know, it's just like, see, you're eating a mushroom and you don't even realize it. Like, it's just good food, you know? So yeah, I love mushrooms now.
Caitlin, do mushrooms have a place in a bakery?
Thankfully, no. But I am like you. I don't like mushrooms, but if I go to a vegan restaurant and I know it's an experienced vegan chef cooking, I will order mushroom-based things because I know they're in good hands. These are people who know how to season them well, how to cook them well, and so I don't hesitate in a vegan restaurant. Any other restaurant, I'll probably pass. And I don't bring them into my house.
Very good to know. Where's the Philomena Bakery? No, I know that all of the food is excellent, and I'm sure I'll be trying some mushrooms before the end of this week is over. I'm sure of it. We do have a call now from Greg in Berea. Greg, welcome to the Sound of Ideas. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. I've got this recipe for sweet potato pie that's from this ancient Betty Crocker cookbook that my mom gave me. Whenever I make it for people, they think I'm a genius. But, of course, it does have eggs in it, and it's got a lot of dairy in it. And I'm just wondering, because I've looked at vegan alternatives to that online, and whenever I find the recipe, it seems like they're even heavier on sugar, or it doesn't come out as good as the real thing. And I'm just wondering, are there any viable replacements for some of these ingredients?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We make a sweet potato pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving at our shop. And instead of eggs, we use flax. It really binds it really well together. And instead of dairy, we use coconut milk. And that provides a nice richness and a lot of fat into it. And actually, it turns out really well. I think I took my old recipe that used to be egg-based and converted it, and it's just divine. And a lot of people say they can't tell the difference. So that's one of the easier things to turn vegan, I'd say. So give it a shot. Do it before the day. I always recommend don't wait until Thanksgiving to try your new veganized version of things. Try like a couple days before, see if it worked, and then pull it out again on Thanksgiving.
All right, thank you very much for the tip there, Caitlin. We have an email now from Marvin. Marvin caught on to our conversation about mushrooms and says, trumpet mushrooms, also called king oyster, have large, thick stems that can be shredded lengthwise with the fork and replace the texture of shredded pulled meat. So thank you very much for that tip, Marvin. We appreciate that very much. And we have another email here now from Debbie. Debbie says, I make egg noodles with wheat flour for our Thanksgiving every year. It's a tradition. However, my granddaughter has celiac. Which type of gluten-free flour can be used and would not disintegrate? So we're talking about egg noodles. Debbie wants to know what type of flour that is gluten-free can be used for egg noodles that won't disintegrate. Anybody here have a suggestion?
Noodles are a tough one because the gluten really does hold the whole thing together. The egg will help if you're going to keep egg in it. I would go with probably a mix of starches with whole grain flours to try to get that same texture, but it's not going to handle the same way at all as real noodles. I would try maybe buckwheat. I would try potato starch. I might put in a bit of tapioca, and then if you roll them out by hand, you may not be able to put it through the regular pasta mill, but if you roll it out by hand on the counter between two sheets of plastic, you might get something that will hold together. But that's a tough one. Noodles are a tough one.
Especially an egg noodle. I know there are so many different kinds of noodles. I'm thinking maybe there's like a vegetable noodle, like a fettuccine that would maybe be a substitute or replacement in something.
Yeah.
I'm not making any noodles, though. I'm just purchasing them. So I'm just thinking of this as a consumer now. Okay, we're going to take a little break now here on The Sound of Ideas. We are talking about Thanksgiving foods and dishes that will fill your table, but will meet every dietary requirement, whatever that might be. So we'll be back in just a moment here, and we'll get to more dishes for everyone to enjoy. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Sound of Ideas. I'm Stephanie Haney, and you are in the middle of our annual Thanksgiving show, where we are talking about Thanksgiving dishes that will fill up your table. And this year, we are focusing on dishes that will meet those dietary restrictions that we know so many Americans work with. Actually, a recent study shows that more than 4 in 10 Americans are working with some kind of nutritional rules. So there's a very good chance that someone at your table will not be able to eat everything at your table. So that's what we're talking about today. Our guests that we have with us here in studio are Portia Phillips, executive chef from the Vegan Club. We have Adam Schwederman, the executive director of Local Roots Market and Cafe. We have Tila Lewis, owner of Garden of Soul, and Caitlin Shea, owner of Philomena Bake Shop. across Northeast Ohio here in studio. Now, if you want to be a part of this conversation, if you have a comment or a question for our panel, you can give us a call at 866-578-0903. You can also send us an email at soi@ideastream.org. And as we come back from the break here, we are on our third set of tasty dishes to try today. Our producers, Aya and Drew, are bringing them out, so they'll be bringing out the plates for our panel here to try as we're starting this conversation. Tila, you have brought us a signature sole plate and a seared lion's mane dish. So tell us about the dishes that you brought in today.
Yes, so our signature soul plate, which consists of collard greens, macaroni and cheese, a sweet potato cornbread muffin, and a fried oyster mushroom. It's actually our highly recommended dish. So the macaroni and cheese here is like a fan favorite. Not only is it vegan, but it also has probiotics in it as well. And then our collard greens, I do a little sweet and savory, just a little different from like your traditional collard greens. And then the sweet potato cornbread muffin kind of helps balance out all of the savory. So we do put actual sweet potatoes that we hand cut and put into the batter for the muffins. And then the fried oyster mushrooms, it gives you like a chicken replacement in a sense. If you were to like cut this open, you couldn't tell. It looks very meaty, like a piece of chicken. The seared lion's mane, this is that fuzzy lion's mane that I was speaking about, but we sear it and then we season it in this savory seasoning. And we get like this rich color on it, this like nice little golden sear on it. And it's really good. We pair it with the red skin garlic mashed potatoes and some broccolini.
All right, I'm looking at this. I know we just had a whole conversation about mushrooms. I'm not sure which is the mushroom. Are these both mushroom? Am I
Yes.
There's this. I'm going to hold this up. So this is a mushroom.
Yes.
This looks like a piece of chicken. Okay, just making sure because I am going to try some mushrooms today.
Yay.
And this is also a mushroom.
She's a chef and a magician.
All right, I'm diving in. Tell me a little bit more about this mushroom that looks like a piece of chicken while I take a bite of it.
Yes, so this is your blue oyster mushroom. This is actually really good for you as well. It's good for your brain health. It's good for heart health. It has lots of antioxidants in it. So again, not only is it flavorful, but it's good for you. It's good for your body. It's good for your brain. It's good for your heart. It's good for so many things, as well as the lion's mane. The lion's mane mushroom is actually known to repair damaged cells for people who have like Parkinson's disease or dementia, even something as common nowadays, having anxiety, right? If you eat lion's mane mushroom, it repairs those damaged cells for you. So again, not only is this food really good taste-wise, but it's good for your body, it's good for your soul, right? So, and that's what we want to promote nowadays, especially on Thanksgiving. And coming from families, I don't know about anyone else, but my family, we have history of like high blood pressure and diabetes and cancer and all those things. So I really take pride in picking out certain ingredients that are good for our body.
I feel smarter and healthier already. This is a real problem for me because these are very good. So I'm really going to have to come off my I can't stand mushrooms high horse right now.
What was I telling you? These aren't like mushrooms that you had as a kid. These are edible.
Right.
So this may not matter for people who are non-meat eaters, but I did eat meat previously. I think at least some of you here ate meat previously or were not completely vegetarian or vegan previously. But this seared lion's mane tastes exactly like what I remember a steak tasting like.
And it's cooked the exact same way a steak would be cooked. That's, to me, the goal, honestly. Again, we're not doing any, like, out of the woodworks to do, to make this good food. I'm literally cooking things the same way I would have cooked meat, the same way I would have cooked macaroni and cheese and collard greens, just literally changing the ingredients. And that's it.
This one, the one that looks like a piece of fried chicken, is it fried, Tila?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes. We do a wet batter and a dry batter to make sure that it has that extra crisp crunch on it. And we season both the batters so that you can make sure it's flavorful. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, Portia, I want to ask you, when you're preparing dishes for people or you're cooking in general, is there a particular flavor profile or cultural tradition that inspires your cooking?
I mean, I guess the food that I definitely grew up with, but I'm a fan of all types of cultures of food. Like Asian food, I draw on that a lot. I'm always at the Asian market. Literally, I laugh at myself because I don't like shopping for like clothes or bags or whatever, but put me in a market and I'm there for hours, like especially if there's something I'm not familiar with. So that's my haven. But I think just in general, at least my philosophy whenever it comes to vegan cooking is not only to try to grab onto those things that I remember growing up with, but to give people a different experience as well. Most people put vegetables and vegan food and non-dairy and all of these titles in a box, and it really doesn't have to mean anything negative. You know, it to me, I enjoy the creativity or the challenge behind how can I take this and make it so that it works for more people. That's really the idea behind the whole thing. So we don't have to be excluded on Thanksgiving. You know, it can be celebrated. So,
Adam, I want to ask you, what's a pantry staple that you think every Thanksgiving cook should have on hand when they're trying to accommodate dietary restrictions? Anything come to mind?
Fresh vegetables. Yeah, that's for me when I'm cooking for people, and I'm not like when I'm looking at the food on this table, I'm just overwhelmed with how impressive everybody is and their culinary skills. I don't have the ability to make food look like this that easily, I guess I would say. And so what I rely on a little bit more is just like clean, simple, fresh. And because I can't make these extravagant meals, it also gives me the opportunity to make sure people that I'm hosting are a little bit more comfortable. Like I'm not spending all my time in the kitchen making some kind of elaborate 5-star dish. A lot of it's prepped ahead of time. It's on the table. When people get there, it's just something's in the oven, it gets roasted, it gets pulled out, but we're spending real quality time together. These ladies might be able to pull that off where they're, making that kind of 5-star culinary experience for their guest and hosting at the same time. But for me, it's just like the simpler, the better. And everybody's really, the whole Thanksgiving, we're like spending time together, enjoying each other's company, relaxing, and the food's there, it's delicious, but the time together is more important than the food.
The food is the centerpiece of Thanksgiving. It definitely is. It brings us all around it. So I'm going to ask each of our panel members, in part to give us a little more time to snack on the delicious food in front of us. But I'm going to start with Caitlin, then I'll move to Tila and Adam and Portia, and ask about if there's something from a memory from when you were younger or some sort of a tradition that sort of inspires how you approach when you're making dishes for Thanksgiving for your family or also for people who may come in to purchase something from one of your establishments. So, Caitlin, I'll ask you first. Is there a memory you can share with us from the past?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, we used to have the very traditional Thanksgiving dinner at my family's house. And then one fateful year, the turkey overflowed. I don't know exactly what happened. I was pretty young when it happened. But it was that ruined the oven. There was a big greasy mess all over the floor, and that was it. We'd never had turkey again in my family. But as a result, we had like Thanksgiving lasagna. We had Thanksgiving stew. Something festive, something rich, something celebratory. But it didn't have to be the traditional turkey thing. And so it sort of opened my mind to having any kind of food that felt special to share with your family and friends. That it broke us free from the shackles of tradition, I guess. So I've always been open to anything on a celebratory day, Christmas or Thanksgiving. Like this week, I'm doing tacos, and I'm excited for that.
and I'm coming over.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Taco Thursday. It sounds like a plan to me. Tila, how about you?
I would say for us, our family typically does brunch and Thanksgiving dinner. We have a really big family. Excuse me. We have a really big family. And so normally our home is the Thanksgiving dinner. So we have, I'm talking like generations and generations of family that comes to our house. And our house isn't that big, but we pack everybody in, right? And we make all this food and everybody is stuffed by the time that they leave. And those are like core memories for me. That's why I love cooking. I always felt like the heart of the home is the kitchen. That's where I learned recipes from my grandmother, my aunts, my father. Those memories to me is what makes Thanksgiving so great for us. And so, like I said, brunch is usually hosted from one of our aunts or whoever decides to take on that responsibility for that year. And Thanksgiving dinner is usually hosted by our household. So I enjoy those moments with my family.
That's a really beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that with us, Tila. Adam, how about you?
I grew up next to a fruit farm, which I didn't realize how lucky I was when I was growing up until I moved away. And my mother, if she's listening, hi, Mom.
We hope she's listening. Hi, Mom. Hi, Adam's mom.
She always preserved peaches. So we'd get fresh peaches, and then she would jar them. And then so everybody else at Thanksgiving, they want pumpkin pie, they want apple pie, they want, pecan pie or whatever. And I want all those pies too, don't get me wrong. But peach pie was my thing. So we would reuse those peach pies, and that, like fresh out of the oven, sitting on the table, it was like everybody was after everything else, and I just had my eye on that pie. And so I still kind of keep that tradition alive.
Okay. Speaking of pie, I believe our final item to try is ready. So I'm going to ask Drew and Aya to bring out the dessert round while Portia shares her story with us. Portia, go ahead.
I think for me, Thanksgiving always started the night before. So it was going to be a late night, and there was always like blues music playing. So I remember like Johnny Taylor and B.B. King. And I was obsessed with being in the kitchen as a kid, which I guess I should have predicted that I was going to end up being a chef later on in life. But I remember I had an Easy Bake Oven. And when I ran out of like the cookies and the cakes that come with it, my mother would always save me like a small portion of whatever she was making. And then I could make that in my Easy Bake Oven. And so I would make literally myself a mini Thanksgiving portion of the meal in this tiny Thanksgiving dish. But that's the thing that sticks out in my brain is me with the Easy Bake Oven cooking my own portion of whatever the meal was. So
That just proves that you are doing what you were meant to do, because I too had an Easy Bake Oven. And I was having that brioche bun problem that the woman who called in earlier was having. Nothing was rising, nothing was firm. It was very soupy. I ate a lot of delicious soups from my Easy Bake Oven.
yes, everything took forever, but it was delicious. And I think it was because it had longer to marinate. Like it really took forever to heat up the meal up under that tiny light bulb, but it worked.
All right, let's talk about our dessert dish now, which comes from Caitlin with the Philomena Bake Shop. Tell us what you brought for us.
I brought our maple pecan pie, and it is lacking the eggs and the butter and the sugar that a traditional pecan pie has. Instead, we use dried fruit as our base and a whole lot of maple syrup and maple extract. And we find that it may not be the lighter thing that you're hoping for at the end of a meal like a peach pie, but it does give you that richness, that sweetness, without hopefully the sugar crash afterwards as well. It has a little more nutrition in it.
I have to ask, is it too late for me to order one of these for Thanksgiving? Because I need to
Orders
take one of
are
these home.
closed, but we hope to have a few. We'll have a few extra in the case.
When do they open up for next year? I just have to get my pre-order in.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
I'm a crust girly. This
Oh, yeah?
crust is phenomenal.
Thank you. Gluten-free vegan crust was a journey to come to get to that stage. It took many, many failures before I figured out how to make it edible.
Okay, can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that? Can you? I don't know if you can
Yeah.
share, but
Oh,
what
sure.
made it what it is, because it's phenomenal.
Yeah, you have to get the right flour mix. Everything in our shop, we make our own flour mix for each product slightly separately. But for a home cook, I would really recommend getting a tried and true gluten-free all-purpose mix. If you're just going to do one baking project a month or something, a Bob's Red Mill, or even I think I've heard good things about the King Arthur's gluten-free mix, and then to get a scale. You can't do cups or teaspoons. Well, maybe teaspoons, but you have to weigh everything, including your liquids, when you get into gluten-free vegan baking. It just makes sure that it's consistent across the board, that you get the same results every time, because some flours are denser than others, so you need to know what you're doing. Keep notes. But I make it in very much the traditional way. I chill my fats, I chill my flours, we cut the fats into the flour, then we add ice water, pull it together, and roll it out. you can't roll it out directly on the counter like you would with real pie crust. You have to roll it between 2 sheets of plastic. That will keep it from sticking too much, and then you can sort of flip it directly into your pie crust using the plastic. That is the big thing that was really hard to learn because I was so used to just dusting my bench with flour, with wheat. And once I couldn't do that anymore, I had to come up with something else. But potato starch, tapioca, brown rice flour, white rice flour, they're all great movers. So they help you sort of keep it under control as well. Yeah.
And why did you move into the gluten-free vegan baking space? You talked about working with regular flour before, so what
Yeah.
made you make the switch?
I've been a professional baker for a couple of decades, and then I developed wheat allergies and dairy allergies and all sorts of other crazy allergies. And I thought, what the heck am I going to do? I can either go back to school and become something completely different, but I've already invested so much time and love into developing this skill. So I sort of stepped back for a couple of years, redeveloped a whole bunch of new recipes, and came back out. And luckily, a whole lot of the world is discovering the same things at the same time as I was, that they just feel better if they don't eat wheat and they don't eat dairy or they don't eat butter or whatever it is that works for them. People feel a lot better if they adjust their diets so often. Everybody's different, and so I don't say it has to be for everybody, but it worked. It worked for me. It really solved a lot of my weird little issues.
Okay, and I'll ask the rest of the panel too. What is it that made you get into this style of cooking, Portia?
Well, for me, this started about 7 or 8 years ago. And I mean, I grew up in the South, so listen, you eat everything from the Rudies to the Tooties. So I was very versed in all kinds of meats and whatever. So really, it was just more of a challenge. The more that I started to research and figure out what was in the food that I was eating, the more that I just started to have questions. And I was like, what if I remove this or what if I remove that? So I just started very small with not eating fast food, which as a chef and you working late hours, that's a typical thing. People think that we eat like these gourmet meals, but a lot of time you're just eating on the fly, especially when you're super busy. So I just was in that habit, and I wanted to change those things because I was super unhealthy. I was tired all the time, in pain, and I was also working 12 plus hours on a line in an 80-degree kitchen. So I was like, something has to change. So I went on this whole like a health journey, and I lost a bunch of weight, and probably halfway through, that's when I started to realize like pay attention to what it was that I was eating. So I just started to remove things slowly. So I was like pescatarian for a while, still ate eggs, and eventually I was like, let me see if I can go like 90 days and not eat any of these things. So I went completely vegan. And I was like, I didn't die. So I think I'm gonna just continue on with this. And literally still years later, even me still being on my health journey and figuring all of that out, I still feel 1,000 times better being without those ingredients versus when I did eat those ingredients, even being at a higher weight. So for me, there is no question. I will never go back. Absolutely. Just based on the way that I feel. Nothing can compare at all.
Adam and Tila, think about your responses to that question. We're going to take a couple calls from our audience now. John in Lima, welcome to the Sound of Ideas. Go ahead.
Hi. My grandma would start putting things together on Tuesday for Thanksgiving, the heavenly hash and the Waldorf salad. And, my overall point is, if you have someone in the kitchen that knows what they're doing, it won't be chaos. And it never was. So.
Thank you very much for sharing that, John. Yeah, preparation is the key to success. And that can be kind of a challenge to know what can be prepared ahead of time. Certainly there are certain things that can be and can't be. Thank you for sharing that perspective, John. We did have a caller who wasn't able to stick around, but the caller asked about preparing tofu and incorporating it into dishes. Do we have any advice here from the panel on preparing tofu and putting that into Thanksgiving dishes?
I mean, I can bite. I love tofu. It took me a long time to actually like tofu. I was like, what is this? But the main trick that I would say that I've learned is that if you want it to have a meatier texture, I do recommend boiling it. And it sounds weird because you're trying to remove water, but for some reason, the heat in the water, it actually draws out the moisture. So I would recommend boiling it first for about 5 or 10 minutes and then also marinate it. Like it's meant to absorb things. So you want to give it as much time as possible to actually marinate the flavor and really get it incorporated. And don't be afraid to sear it. That's what's going to, awaken all of those flavors that you just spent time marinating it in. So don't you can go a little tough. It'll be okay. It'll be
Okay.
all right. Yeah, give it a nice sear.
Good to know. All right. Adam, I'll ask you, what made you decide to get into this style of food preparation?
Well, I guess I want to clarify a little bit. If anybody knows me, I'm a pretty categorical omnivore. But like some of these other chefs were saying, it's a journey, and everybody has a different kind of space that they're in and what's right for them and their body. And what I have found a little bit over time is what my neighbor here was just saying, is that I have found that I feel better when I cut out a whole lot of fats, a whole lot of super processed foods, especially sugars. I had some odd heart conditions last year that kind of popped up, and I went to a doctor and I started working with, a lot of the people that I work with at Local Roots. They're a little bit more health focused in their food choices, and I went through a super clean diet, 3 months, and I was eating a lot of lentils and a lot of quinoa and a lot of super lean proteins, and I dropped 25 pounds. Was exercising every single day. My mood improved, and it is one of those inputs outputs things. Like, what you put into your body is going to determine how you feel on the way throughout your day. And so I'm learning as I'm going, and I'm just finding that my body, and I think it's part of getting older too. Like, when I was young, I could just put whatever in there and I was happy as could be. But as I get older too, I got to be more sensitive about what I choose to eat and what I choose not to. And that's tough for a lot of people, especially around the holidays. And so I think if you're cooking for your families, just keep in mind that you guys want to feel good at the end of the meal,
That's true. Good and stuffed, comfortably stuffed,
Yeah.
ideally.
Yeah.
It is, where our bodies are a lot like cars, by the way. Not every car takes the same kind of gas, but if you put the wrong gas in a car, you're going to know it's not going to run very well.
Yep.
Tila, how about you? Why did you get into this style of food preparation?
For me, it was more so just knowing my family history and all of the health issues that, I come from. And once I did the research on being vegan, I wanted to see for myself. I've heard from a lot of people, oh yeah, being vegan is so great. This is all the changes that I've seen. But for me, I like to see for myself. Like, okay, just like you said, like it could be different for every person. So I wanted to see for myself. And then once I started doing the research, I got obsessed with trying to find different recipes. I've always loved to cook, and that was like a passion of mine. So I'm like, okay, well, let's take a new look on making vegan food. Let's see if I can really do this. And then, once I dove into it, I was like, okay, no, this could be better. This could be better. And I just really got obsessed with cooking vegan food. And just realizing after I went vegan, when I first started, I did a raw vegan diet. So I would just do like raw fruit, raw vegetables, and water, like no processed food, no cooked food. And I've seen major differences in my energy, in my skin, just everything. And I was like, okay, well, maybe they may be right, So I just kind of went down a rabbit hole, I guess you could say, and just stuck with it from there. So it's been like 5 years now and still going.
Thank you for sharing all of that. One more thing I'm going to ask our panel to share before we wrap things up, and maybe just a sentence or two. Let me know what you're thankful for looking ahead to this Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday. And Caitlin, I'll start with you.
Oh, I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for the people that surround me and support me, and to live in a peaceful, safe environment.
Thank you, Caitlin. Tila, what are you thankful for this year?
I am thankful for my family, all the blessings that I have every day, being able to just wake up and live out my passion. That's what I'm grateful for.
Adam?
I'm thankful for all the creativity that I'm surrounded by. So there's so many people in the food world right now that are pushing and pioneering and trying new things, whether it's their own personal diet or whether they're providing for other people. And Thanksgiving is this like great American food holiday, and people really seem to be leaning into it. And so I just love that.
And Portia?
I think I'm most grateful really just for opportunity. I mean, every day you can put a smile on someone's face, especially doing what I do. And I enjoy it so much. Like, my customers give me so much life and just energy to get through these long days. But I do it for you all. Like, I love that you love it, and that encourages me to keep going. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be the chef that's providing the food for you to eat. So I'm grateful.
Very well said. And in this moment, I am thankful for all of you being here and all of the delicious leftovers that I will be enjoying for the next day as I look ahead to Thanksgiving. Thank you each for being a part of our Friendsgiving Dietary Restrictions Thanksgiving show. We have Portia Phillips, Executive Chef from the Vegan Club. We have Adam Schwederman, Executive Director from Local Roots Market and Cafe. Tila Lewis, owner of Garden of Soul. And Caitlin Shea, owner of Philomena Bake Shop. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
you for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That's our Friendsgiving show this year for Thanksgiving. To get the last word on today's topics, you can email us at soi@ideastream.org. Last Thursday, we talked about phubbing, which is snubbing the people in your lives in favor of your phone. We talked a lot about people claiming to need their phone out for emergencies. And Mary from Kent wrote in, I don't think the quick check for an answer or an emergency is the issue. To me, it's rude when the quick check turns into a 5 to 10 minute scroll through Facebook or X after the answer is found, especially when spending time in person, even in a small group. Thank you for sharing that with us, Mary. Tomorrow on The Sound of Ideas, we'll talk about the importance of shopping small. If you missed any part of today's show, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. This has been The Sound of Ideas. I'm Stephanie Haney. We'll see you here tomorrow.